are now YouTube live. So yeah, basically what we're just gonna be covering again is more of the NLP overview. And I wanted to start out with just kind of recapping based on some of people's ahas from yesterday. So obviously we covered 4 different NLP techniques. And in my humble opinion, we had a really compelling conversation in regards to the improper or the proper use of why and the question why. So let's just kind of go around about here. You know, what are some of the takeaways that y'all had from yesterday? Thing.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, damn it, John. No, I was going to call on you. No.
I'll go.
So
Go for it, Lee.
Just how you can steer a conversation in any direction. And objections do not shut it down if you have the ability to reframe and use your NLP skills to drive it where you want.
There you go. I love that. I love that. Right, Brett, what were you going to say as well?
well, just that by using the term why, it usually focuses past and what happened before, and also people tend to then get more stuck in their position rather than working forward toward the direction we want to go to move for progress.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like, it's so interesting because yesterday had a very good conversation actually with our marketing person here on the team. And what was so interesting is that I was able to witness the improper use of why and the fallout from it. So here's the case in point. This marketing person was explaining, you know, one of the current marketing pieces that in my opinion was, how do I put this lightly, garbage. Really charged. So what I mean by that is that it was just ambiguous. It was rushed. It was definitely rushed. So essentially all it started out with was, it was me and my business partner. My business partner said, why did you come up with this? And I just witnessed, and then everything that justified the marketing person's response was all in defense. It was all in defense because they knew that we weren't necessarily thrilled with it. But this is something that has to go out next week. And we're like, this kind of puts us in a bind, right? So I'm just kind of like understanding, okay, how can we massage this to make it a little bit better? But for at least, I kid you not, 30 minutes, the conversation was just going back and forth between my business partner and the marketing person, just about, well, why did you come up with that? Well, at what point? No, like this, that. It was so in the detail, in the nitty gritty. And remember what we said yesterday. What's the difference between chunked up and chunked down? Does anybody remember?
Chunking down gets into the details of it, and chunking up gets into more of a motivational standpoint.
Yeah. It's like, and so we were caught up in the details. 30 minutes, y'all. 30 minutes. I will never get that time back. But that is an exact reason why, essentially, that's kind of like what we see in action. So I encourage you all to be cognizant of the power of your questions. And that's for that specific reason. It was one simple question. Why did you come up with this? You know, these were so good before. Why did you come up with this random one? Now we're in a time crunch. Well, blah, 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 blah. Well, I was thinking this, and then from blah, 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 blah. And then we're like, no, that blah, blah, blah. And then so it kept on going to the details versus what would have been a different way. Y'all tell me. I got this market.
Stephen, when you do ask why, you know, it really helps to like just shut up and listen, because if they do get defensive, you know that you struck a chord, right? But if they're not trying to justify something and they actually give you their motivation, right, then you got to go down that path and you got to take it for what it is, right? Because you want that motivation. That's the ideal goal, right? Getting into the details, I'm like, who cares if you want a 3-bed, 2-bath? Why do you want that? What will that do for you? Get that follow-up question going, because that will really engage a conversation rather than just putting them like, I mean, if somebody asking, why'd you do that? You're gonna back up. You're gonna get in the corner. You know.
Well, it's like, well, that's exactly it. It's like, well, why did you do that, or why this? You know, why did you arrive at that conclusion to wait? Why did you? Yeah, why did you change your mind about moving forward in real estate? Like those are all things in which it's going to, like Eddie's saying, get that defensiveness to where it's more likely to get that defensiveness, especially if they're having to back up their common thinking, right? Well, I was thinking this. Well, why did you think that? Well, because this is that. The difference between saying, well, Brett, I'm interested in, selling my place. Well, tell me more about that, And again, that could be, I'm thinking about this, as long as they're moving forward and looking at it from that why standpoint, saying, well, okay, well, why is that important to you? What's the difference? Think about it. Go really, really deep. What's the difference between why I say, okay, why is that important versus why do you want to wait? Or why do you want to hold off? Or why do you want to take a few days to think about it? Why do you want to do this? Or why is that important to you? What's the difference?
One is future tense and the other is doubling down.
It's just digressing backwards. I like the way that you put that, Junior. I really like the way you put that. So again, this is recapping the importance of asking why, making sure that it's focused on the right thing. If you're moving them towards their big why or their motivation, good use. If you're wanting to ask them to justify something, improper use. Got it? They have to justify, improperly used for the why. You're going to dig yourself a hole. So Lee, if I may, because you were talking about how you can guide a conversation forward. So tell me, like, how did you interpret the reframe? Because you brought that up first, right? What did you take away as far as the reframe and what it does? She may be on the other line.
Help people look through to see things from a different perspective.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it really, and try to make them see it from not necessarily your perspective, but guide them toward where you want them to go.
Yeah.
Shifting their mindset,
It's taking, and here's the easiest way to think about it. If I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't understand your process, I'm going to reframe it into something that I can understand better. I know that sounds selfish, but let's just be honest. This is the reason why I will own this. I seem more knowledgeable than I really am. Let's just be honest, especially in scripts. If you've been listening for the past, let's just say 3 years, most of the scripts are all based on these concepts. All of them. All of them. So therefore, it's easy to understand or internalize if you practice, right? It's easy to understand. Yet at the same point in time, for Keller Williams and Gary's mastermind groups, I'm known as the scripting guy. I know 5 techniques, okay? And then I modify the script to there. I'm saying this not to be like this to myself, but to say, I'm telling y'all exactly what it is. Here are all my tips and tricks. Y'all want to be the scripting guy? You want to be the scripting gal? Here you go. You modify everything into these types of conversations. So for a reframe, if someone's going to talk about, and here's the example from yesterday, Medi was saying, oh, well, I want to meditate on that decision. Okay, and is that because you want to feel comfortable with whatever decision you make? Well, yeah, it's just my process and whatnot. Okay, got it. So you're wanting to internalize all the information then, right? I can't understand meditating on a decision without all the facts present. So I'm thinking, so you want to feel comfortable with the decision. I can talk about helping you feel comfortable. That's what I can talk about. I can't talk about your process of meditating. I don't know much about that, right? Okay, well, I want to take that time to do this. Okay, so you want to internalize your decision. I can talk about internalizing your decision. I don't know anything about praying on this. I don't know anything about meditating on it. So can you see that's a type of a different way of looking at the use of a reframe, is that it helps guide the conversation towards what you want to discuss, not from a selfish standpoint, not from a manipulation standpoint, but purely from influence. You can't influence someone in a direction that you're not very aware of. If you don't know what their process is like to internalize information, then attempt to reframe it. What's the good news about a reframe? Can you actually improperly use a reframe?
No,
Why not, Rob?
because if you do, they'll tell you.
Okay, so it's something as simple as, and correct me, okay, give me, so tell me you want to wait, Rob.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait right now.
That's fair, that's fair. Is that just because you're in this research phase still?
No, because I'm broke right now.
Oh, got it, okay, so it's financial then.
Right.
Ah, course correct, right? All right, thanks, John. You can always watch the recording later. But yeah, that's basically what we're talking about. It's hard to improperly use a reframe because worst case, they're going to correct you, right? Worst case, they're going to correct you, in which then you're like, oh, okay, that's the reason why. And it keeps it conversational. Eddie, I know I was going to say, because you were saying, yeah, there's an improper use. So this may be a blind spot for me. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
You know, being a sarcastic Bostonian, you can easily say something inappropriate and offend somebody with a reframe.
Ooh, okay. Do you have like an example? Because yeah, this is a blind spot for me.
Yeah, I mean, to go out way into left field, is that if you're dealing with a husband and wife, is that because you know, she's not here to make the decision for you?
Oh. Okay, yeah, no, I can see that. Okay, fair enough, Eddie. So
you could, yeah, I mean, you could say something to
you could. So this is going to come down to an emotional intelligence type thing, in which if you're going to be that
You're gonna emasculate the husband.
yeah, right. Oh, is that because you can't make decisions on your own? Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, I need to talk this over with my partner, with my spouse. Okay, because you can't make decisions on your own. You're not an adult. You're not a grown up.
It's a reframe. I just need to be
You're
silly.
not wrong. You're not wrong. It is a reframe. It is a reframe. So, just don't be dumb when doing them. That's your advice. Write that down. Don't be dumb. There you go. You're welcome. Scripts, everyone. So I like this. So Nikki, always remember why you're having the conversation in the first place. Hear objections like, let me see, like Charlie Brown's teacher, objection. Answer, so you want to buy, but objection. Is that because this, right? So you want to buy, but you're still considering waiting. Is that because you're still in the research phase? Those objections, right, that you get, why are they not scary? I want to take a moment to pause on these because so many times people are afraid of closing 3, 4, 5 times. You have to.
It's just an opportunity for you to be able to address their fear. So what the Charlie Brown teacher thing was something you actually brought up 2 years ago, which was epic, which was somebody who's like, they either responded to your ad or they responded to Zillow, or for whatever reason, you're having a real estate conversation with them. That means they want something, right? So the desire is there. And what they're saying is like, I want it, but blah, blah, blah. So your scripts at that point was like, so you want to buy? Like all you hear is so they want to buy or so they want to sell. Everything else is like, and you are able to address the objections surrounding that and move forward because they want to buy.
Oh, yeah.
They want you to help them figure out why it is that they're fearful to do that and give them a pass.
That's it.
You did that all too well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. But yeah, no, what Nikki is saying is absolutely 100% true, where it's like we want to key in on what is the main objective. Like Nikki was saying, what is the why behind this? Do they want to buy? Do they want to sell? Do they want to invest? Okay. They want to, their desire is this, but insert objection. Too many of us, okay, now I'm going to get really serious here. Too many of us get afraid of those objections because we take them personally. We think that we're being shut down. Stop it. Right? Stop it. This is not about you. In fact, real estate has nothing to do with you. Listen to that again. Real estate has nothing to do with you. You're a facilitator. You're a teacher. You're an educator. You're a matchmaker. When a person is saying, now's not the best time, take it literally. There's a power in this, and maybe I'm more stubborn than most, or just because of my past experience in working with cancer patients, that maybe I'm a little bit more cold to people turning me down or shutting me down or anything like that, because it just, I've learned to not take it personally, because I'm thinking whatever they're going through is what they're going through. We have to respect that. And the way that we respect that is by helping guide them in this particular one, because we're really honing in on the reframes, by getting them to reframe the situation, that context, so they then seek out new content. You can't do that if you just shut down or if you're taking their objections personally. What are y'all taking away from that? I really want to know, how are you internalizing that information? Please.
Basically, just get out your head and yeah, and realize it's not about you at all.
No, man, it's not about you. It's not about you. If a person wants to wait, it's not because they don't like you. Okay. If a person's not taking your calls, why is that? Literally.
They don't want to talk to you.
Could be. What else could it be? Could be, Andrea. Could be. What else could it be?
They're busy.
There you go, Salma. Isn't this interesting? I asked that question because I wanted to know the authentic responses. 3 of the responses were not about the client. If you look at them, they're basically saying that they're avoiding, saying that we're not important enough for them.
No, I didn't say we are not important enough for them. It's not important enough for
It's
them.
not. There we go. Okay, so it's not important enough for them. Okay, sorry. So I misinterpreted that.
Maybe you're bringing your own self into this conversation, Stephen.
You're right. You're right. I am 100%. 100%. I put my own interpretation, and look at this. I stand corrected. I'm totally cool with that, right? Isn't this? But this is kind of the point. Is that there's a million different reasons why. More often than not, in my experience, when you call a person at 9 a.m., they're probably commuting. When you call them again at 12:30, probably on lunch. Call them again at 5, they might be with family. Try them again the next morning. Maybe I'll try earlier. I call them at 8:30. Maybe they're at yoga, right? And this does tag on to what Vinny was talking about, is that the thing that you need to remember is that we are living and breathing real estate. That is our occupation, or one of them if we are dual career, right? This is what we live and breathe. I can't help but listen to people walking along the boardwalk being like, oh, this is a great place. I'm like, oh, do you rent or do you own? Right? It's just like, that's naturally what's coming to mind. I'm constantly looking at properties being like, what kind of house would that? Would that be a Tudor, or would that be a Mediterranean? What kind of this? It's just, that's just my life, and I enjoy it, right? These other people that are accountants, engineers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, everything in between, cashiers, they've got their own lives going on. So guess what? Their stuff is probably more important than one piece of their life, which is real estate. Do you get that? So real estate is a fraction. It's the biggest investment in their life, but it's not their life. This is our occupation.
Well, it's also, I mean, most people don't like change, right? And what's bigger than basically buying a house or selling your house? That's a huge change right there. So it's like you put on the back burner as long as possible, and then when you deal with it at that time when you think you need to.
That's it.
It's like a necessary evil.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil. I'm going to be perfectly honest. You know what? Whenever my, dentist is like, hey, Stephen, you need to schedule your follow-up. You need to schedule your cleaning. And I'm like, I'm good. No cavities. Right? Is it important? Yeah. But when they're like, we haven't seen you in 6 months, we need to see you in here. I'm like, well, I'll get in, right? I see the number popping up. I'm like, oh, it's my dentist. Okay, good on them. And then I'll call them when I'm ready. I see them calling. I give them kudos, right? I'm not taking the call because I'm busy. And I will get around to it when I get around to it. I can't count the amount of times in which we followed up with people for months, years sometimes, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, Stephen, I've been meaning to call you." And I'm like, for 3 freaking months? Really? You know, but I got to get out of that because it's when it's important to them. Hence the reason why that in your business, that's why I say follow-up is my favorite F word in real estate. Because it's what's going to give you the most business. The fortune is in the follow-up. If you're not following up with people, your average contact attempt is 9. Average. That means sometimes you get a hold of them sooner. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Your average contact time is 9 times. 9 times. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, anyone? So it's just like those 9 attempts, you have to look at your business structure and saying, are you making time to reach out to those person? If I were to look at a lead that you got from an open house, can I look at your CRM and see that you have at least 10 contact attempts to follow up with them to make contact? Or how many of us just drop the ball because we're like, well, they're not responding after I tried to call them 3 times. They're not serious. They don't value me. They probably have another agent. They weren't serious. They're just tire kickers. F them. Rah! It's not about you. What are y'all taking away from this? Brett, I'm looking at your face and it's like there's a few like little nuggets that seem to kind of like hit you here and there. I'd love to get to know like what are your thoughts on what we just discussed in regards to contacting attempts, not making it
Yeah, like, and I hear your message and it's totally true, but it's still, as a brand new agent, I'm still learning to work through that, even though I know it here before this session.
Oh yeah.
I knew it, but I need to like, just know it, like to get used to it and just to, practice getting used to that.
Oh yeah.
It takes practice, man. It's just gonna be falling on your face more and more often. You're gonna get used to this kind of stuff. But you got to be out there, like speaking to people constantly, to be able to get comfortable with the no's and the objection handling and just how to make that conversation flow.
That's really it.
Falling forward.
Yeah, that's really it. You know, Salma, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's not just the no's. Like, I think about it in a sense where I'm the one in their shoes and I look at the text messages that I haven't answered and I go to text that person maybe 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to answer. Or like a call from someone weeks ago and I'm like, oh, I thought about this 3 weeks later. And so then I'm like, okay, this is not just me. It's the people that I'm contacting, and it's the people that I'm attempting to get in touch with, and even my clients, like reaching out to them afterwards. They're busy too, you know, and we're all kind of the same way. Like, I have it in all aspects of my life. I wish iPhone had the unread for messages, because I can almost never remember sometimes if I read at the wrong time. So the wrong time, I think, is important there.
That's why I joke around with people that whenever some of y'all, you know, obviously reach out to me and then only once, and then are like, you know, oh, I haven't heard back from you. And I'm like, guys, I've been up at 6 and I cleared out my messages. Does everybody see how many messages that I've received since then? It's like, you don't know how many contacts these people are going off of. I'm afraid to look at my missed calls. Okay, only 6, that's fine. So it's just, you know, at the same point in time, when you're looking at it, it's not because I'm avoiding, it's just, I'm doing this. I'm then gonna pop on and facilitate some more scripting and then do a call day with the team. So it's like, we just have to also understand that whatever people are going through is what they're going through. That's their stuff. We do it too. So that's, if there's anything that y'all take away from this, is that one, the reframe. Use your emotional intelligence to be able to contextualize it. Say, if you don't know that path, thanks, Vinny. If you don't know that path that they're going down, contextualize it into something that you can speak to. You don't want to talk about waiting. You want to talk about the research. You don't want to talk about the reduced commission. You want to talk about what? What's the reframe? Reduced commission. What's the reframe?
Is that because you want to get the most money?
There you go, Jose. Right? Just like, so you don't want to talk about the reduced commission. You want to talk about the increased dollar amount in their pocket, right? You don't want to talk about them interviewing multiple agents. What would you rather talk to them about? What's the reframe?
Do you know when you found the best agent?
There we go. Right? Got it. So it sounds like you just want to find the best one for you then. Well, yeah. How will you know? Then when you start asking for those metrics, I love that you picked that up, Brett, because when you ask a person how, what did that do in that moment? If I were to say, if you were to ask me, well, how will you know when you find the right agent? What do you think just went through my head when you asked that?
I think it's you don't have to think, you're not thinking about the past, or it's about how. It's like, oh, how can I, it's more action oriented for the future.
Yeah, it's still moving them forward, because now I'm searching for how will I know, right? You've just programmed, you just rerouted my programming to go from, I want to interview multiple agents. The reason why I want to interview multiple agents is because I need to hear out everybody to consider all of my options. And I want to know everybody's marketing strategy. Yes, but how will you know when you found the right fit?
Stephen, does that question change it from an emotional perspective to a logical?
You know, Junior, that's a really good question. Because I'm more of a logistical person, I'm inclined to say yes, but I totally own that may be a blind spot, because sometimes I have encountered those clients in which, case in point, how will you know when you found the right home? They say, I will just feel it. And I'm like,
Got it.
I'm like, so I'll still ask, and I say, so tell me about that, because I have no fucking clue, right? If you feel it, sure, but I'm like, I only feel it because it has the layout that I want, the bedroom, bathroom, the windows, right? I'm just logical biased.
Got it.
So again, Stevenisms, I would say yes, it flips it from an ambiguous to a more logistical decision-making process in which I favor in my case, right? But that's not to say that you're not going to encounter those people that are still very emotionally based and are going to say, I will just feel it. As soon as I walk in, I'll know that it's home. Sarah on the Lee Home team, she had a client like that as well, that no matter what, they were like, when I walk in, I'll just know. And sometimes that may be the case. Now, of course, in my little head, I'm thinking, okay, well, and so tell me about that. What is the feeling that you will experience? And what contributes to that feeling, right? What leads up to you feeling that way? You know, those are the additional questions that I'm trying to grasp around, because if I can understand how they process information, then I can cater it accordingly. That's another interesting aspect that we talked about yesterday, that's more psychological, more counseling based, but still something to take into consideration. People have a strategy in regards to making decisions, okay? I'm going to give you a little bit of an NLP practitioner type thing, okay? This may help just shed some light on it, because this is new content, okay? So bear with me here.
Can I say one thing before you go on?
Sarah, please, yeah.
About so it's not like one client that did that in particular. It's what I say to my clients. because I experienced it myself with my home purchase. And, obviously in this market, and when you and Jay say like, we're only going to see 5 homes, narrow it down to 5 homes. And a lot of times that's really hard for people to grasp because of that whole, like, well, what if I miss out? What if I miss out? Yeah. So what I found is that when I tell people like, look, the market's crazy, we're going to war right now, and I'm going to fight for you. I need you to be realistic about the properties that we're going to see. We're not taking tours for fun. Like, I need to know exactly what y'all are looking for so that we can see exactly that. And that's when I say, and when you find your home, you will know it, because that in itself is like my NLP technique, because I don't want to be dealing with, well, I really liked this one, but that one was cool too. So I tell them, you'll know when it's your family's home, and I need to know what that house is so that I can go to battle for you when we find it. That way it kind of like, it alleviates. I found that it tends to keep people away from that kind of wishy-washy, like, well, this one was cool, but I really liked that one. Like, when I tell them, you'll feel the feeling that I felt every single time. They do, without fail.
Yep. Well, so, and I love the way that you're contextualizing it, because that is a pseudo kind of like strategy elicitation is what we've called it. I would like to use 2 people as an example just to show you the variance. Sarah, is it okay if I keep you talking for a minute?
Sure thing.
Keep it very concise just for the sake of time here. But what was the last big purchase you made?
My house.
Okay. So talk me through from the concept of wanting the house all the way to execution. Walk me through that process. What happened first?
Well, I'm an high S. So I was, looking around, and I was noticing the trend of the market. And I decided like, oh, if I don't buy now, it's never going to happen, or it's just going to get even harder. So I couldn't buy on my own. So I went to my aunt, and she said, okay, I'll buy it for you, and you can buy it for me later. She said, okay, cool. So then I had to figure out what it was that I needed and what I was looking for. And I said, okay, on paper, I want at least a 3-bedroom, 2 baths, something that I can have roommates, because I don't want to be lonely, but it has to be in these areas around this price. And so I found a ton of places. Well, maybe not a ton, but I found like maybe 5 places, and I went to see them all. On paper, they were perfect. They were 3-bed, 2 bath, but I would get there and I was like, it doesn't feel like home, and go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I'm going to pause you just because right here, and I'm typing out the note. I'm going to get someone else, right? So this is basically what I would do if I were to be doing an NLP exercise with you. Whenever someone is trying to break a habit, or whenever someone is wanting to do something a little bit differently, don't worry, if y'all want NLP certification and whatnot, look at NLP.com, Dr. Matt James Empowerment Partnership. It's a great resource. But the thing that I did with Sarah was, if I were to kind of replay up to that point, she was saying, well, I was looking around the market, visual, right? Looking around the market, and I was thinking, wow, now is really the best time to probably consider that. So logical decision, finances, okay? Well, so then I was essentially, she consulted with her aunt, saying like this. So a lot of those were logical, to where she's like, on paper, this is what made sense. Sense, whenever a person's mentioning sense, that's a logical decision-making process. She went to go look at properties, cross-reference that back with her criteria. So I can safely assume that a lot of Sarah's bias is going to be that based on logic. And that's just up to that point. So there are some different things to where it might be kinesthetic. If someone were to buy a car, right? Some people are like, oh, I just went and test drove, or I saw a bunch online, visual, okay? And then I wanted to go out and test drive, kinesthetic. And then I checked the numbers, logistical, logical, right? For me, when I bought my car, it was, did it make financial sense? Was it safe? Did it meet the criteria I wanted? So I was logical, kinesthetic, and then logical again, right? Versus, let's say someone like, I'd be curious to know, Paul, Are you able to chat?
Yes.
So
Hi.
same thing. What was the last purchase, the last big purchase you made?
Big purchase would be my car.
So walk me through that, all the way from deciding that you needed a car to purchasing the car. Just kind of walk me through that.
So purchasing the car, so I wasn't really planning to buy a car. It was like, it was Valentine's Day weekend, and I needed a car wash. So I went inside the dealership, and I was just walking around. I was like, my gosh, this car is so cute, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was just like literally walking around while waiting for my car wash to be done. And then the salesperson came up to me and was like, are you close to your lease agreement? I was like, yeah, it's almost done. And he was like, what do you like about your car? I was like, it's fast, it's like nice, sexy. And then he showed me a car that I was looking through online 2 weeks before I went and get a car wash. And then we ran numbers, it made total sense. And then before I signed the contract, I was like, does this make sense to me? Do I really need a new car? But I ended up getting it.
Okay, so there you go. So if we were to look at someone like Paul, which is looking around on the showroom, okay, and then having a discussion about what he loves about that car, more kinesthetic, right? What did he feel like? Is it fast? Is it this? Like all these sexy pieces. Then it's kind of like, okay, let's crunch some numbers. Let's make sure that it makes sense. And then you double check your logical and be like, yeah, Nikki, that's perfect. If you ever need your windows washed, I have a house to sell to you. So yeah, if you ever need that going on, there you go. You're welcome, Paul. So the point of that little exercise, okay, very, very, very simple. Yeah, Alicia, same thing happened. I wasn't in the market to buy a house. Then all of a sudden you're in escrow. So the reason for this exercise is just saying, tell me about that process, right? If you have that kind of understanding about a person, guess what? For someone like Sarah, okay, if we see that she has a heavy base on logic, just based on that description, okay, I'm not saying this is 100% truth, right? This is Sarah, I'm not putting her in a box. But based on that, do you think that I'm going to win over with Sarah if I just talk about, well, so Sarah, like this new house, how's that going to make you feel? But like once you walk in, what are you wanting to feel? Am I speaking her language? For Paul, he's kind of a grab bag of different things. But if I start him out with logistical, case in point, he wasn't in the market to buy a car until he was seeing them on the showroom. Had I started out, let's just say that morning, and be like, hey, Paul, do you think it makes sense to go buy a car? He probably would have been like, no, because his process starts with visual. That inspires the next process. Sarah, on the other hand, that would work out well. When would it make sense? What are y'all taking away from that? What's a little aha? Because I know that sometimes whenever I go into a little bit deeper meaning on NLP stuff, sometimes people's eyes roll to the back of their head. But what are y'all taking away from these different strategies, the thought process that people go through?
Yeah, just know how people process their decisions and just mimic those. Instead of, like you said, instead of if they're visual, don't go emotional or logical. If they're visual, do something visual.
Yeah, and I love the way that you put that, Rob, because when you're able to speak someone's language, this does go into one of the fundamental sales pieces, which is mirror and matching, right? Because when you're speaking their language, whether they know it or not, if I'm showing you properties and I know that you're more of a visually inclined individual, I'm going to ask you, so where would you put the furniture? How would you design this room? Get it? Logistically speaking, I would say, okay, so, what do you think about the layout? What do you think about the location? What do you think about this? If a person's like, oh, I'll just know, well, how's this one feel? How does that feel? Right? It's very subtle. It's very subtle, but when you're communicating with someone on the way that they process, that right there, everyone, that is your key to success. Speaking that client's language, understanding if they have a bias towards logic, visual, kinesthetic. It's the most basic one. Most basic way to process information when you can speak their language. Second one is understanding that the client, their objections have nothing to do with you. It's that they are working through their own process. So that's another way that you can look at it. I don't have to talk to all of my clients and saying, so tell me, what was the last big purchase you made, to understand their thought process. There's a reason why I say, so tell me, what has you looking for a new home? Got it. So what's your intention for selling your property? They will tell you their thought process right there. Do you get that? Tell me, why is it important to purchase a property? What are you looking to accomplish by selling your home? Well, I mean, we've been in here for so long, and now that the kids have moved off, logical, we don't really need all this space anymore, and it's just a lot of maintenance to upkeep, logical. I'm going to talk logic. So what has you wanting to sell your property? Well, it's something that we're seeing all these new developments in new construction, visual, and it's like we walked through one of those, and we just felt like this is something that kinesthetic, right? So now we're going to go more woo-woo with them. Does that make sense? So again, today was meant to be an overview. We're cutting scripts a little bit short because here's what I want everybody to do. Is I want each and every one of you for the last 15 minutes, okay? So we're going to end here at 9:15. You all planned for 9:15 to 9:30, just so you know. I'm going to put this on y'all because I'm going to give y'all 15 minutes to do your homework. Promise me you'll do that. Please, please. Steven, I just wanted to hear you talk. No, you got a little bit of homework, okay? The next 15 minutes, I simply want you to look at the scripts that you use and pay attention to the operative words that you're using. Are you biased towards feeling? Are you biased towards logic? Are you biased towards visual? Your only homework is to just, one, look at your scripts and seeing what you have a natural tendency to articulate. I use, so that I see, I don't know, I kind of use them all ambiguously. I'm a poor example of it. But each one of you can probably look back and saying, what was my process in buying my last big purchase? And just see, what is the common theme? Are you a logical based person? Are you more visual or kinesthetic? When you understand what your bias is, you have an awareness to where now when you're communicating with other people, you're listening more in tune and speaking their language rather than speaking your bias, okay? So step one for the next 15 minutes, just look at the scripts you've been using and seeing if you have any natural inclination to talk about something that's logical, visual, or kinesthetic. And then the second part would be to say, what is my bias? And just walk through that on your own. It's a self-guided exercise and just kind of document it. This is what I did first. This is what I did. Is that logical emotion? Is that logical? Is it kinesthetic? Is it visual? Whatever have you. So tomorrow, what we're going to do, because we focused mainly on reframes and obviously covered some new content in regards to communication on an NLP basis. Tomorrow, what I would like for us to do is to be able to hop back on this, but then come up with some different scenarios in which we can use not only the reframe, but also the double binds and the yes pattern to close us out, okay? So if you didn't get a chance to watch yesterday's session, rewatch those only for at least those three, because I think that that'll help you to be like, okay, so Andrea, so it sounds like, you're still in the research phase. You want to wait? Oh, got it. So it sounds like you're in the research phase. Got it. Okay, so is this something that you're looking for more of a lifestyle, or are you looking for more price per square foot? Double bind. Got it. What else? What else? What else? So it sounds like you want this, correct? You want that, correct? And then also this one. Well, let's come up with a game plan. Sounds good? That's what we're going to practice for tomorrow. Okay? Reframe into double bind into the yes pattern close. Cool? I appreciate you all. Do your homework, please, for the next 15 minutes. And I'd love for y'all to share your little ahas tomorrow as we kick things off. Appreciate y'all. See y'all tomorrow.